I mean, listen, he needed both hands to do that today. Almost 7 touchdowns, really, he could have had. It was a career day for him in the red and green cleats as the Saints, they win the game, they win the division. Steve Smith Sr., we are super Christmassy right now. We have a lot to talk about. This was a crazy game for Kamara. Let's get to it here. It was a Kamara special, really, on NFL Network here. The Superdome getting ready to play this game here earlier. First time the Saints would play on Christmas Day. Plenty of gifts to unwrap in the end zone, might I add. So Kamara, as we just said, had a day. He said he usually wears the green cleats, but he went with the red and green, and I think that was a nice way to do it here. First quarter, this was the first score on the board, burst right through there for the touchdown, 40 yards. So the Saints, they go up 7-0. Kamara loves it. Later in the first, game tied at 7, and Kamara gets in right there again for the 1-yard touchdown. So the Saints go up 14-7. Second quarter. Do you guys know where this is going? Oh, yeah, it's going to another Alvin Kamara touchdown here. So that is number 3. Saints lead 24-14. As you can see right there, he just runs straight through everybody. Okay, so third quarter we go to. Saints up 24-14. Drew Brees, his pass intended for Emmanuel Sanders, and Sanders usually makes those plays. It's intercepted by Hardy Nickerson, so St. Nick there trying to get it done for the Vikings. It would not be enough, though. Take another look there. As you can see, Brees was not happy. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. 3 plays later, off of that interception, Kirk Cousins fakes the handoff and hits a wide-open Irv Smith Jr. for the 2-yard score. So the Vikings, they pull within 4 here after the missed extra point. But Kamara just could not be stopped today. He was an absolute cheat code. 17-yard gain right there on the very next play, 1st and goal. And, of course, he's going to get the touchdown there. 6-yard score. Saints lead 31-20. All right, here we go. Fourth quarter. Saints up 31-27 here. And what do you think happens? Let me just spoil it for you. Kamara scores again. This is basically just a Kamara highlight reel at this point. So the Saints, they take the 38-27 lead there, Steve.
Yeah, you can just see Alvin Kamara is in the zone, running the ball excellent, hitting the hole, getting skinny, running through blocks. And then right here, you can just see him. He is in full charge of where he wants to go, how he wants to do it, and his offensive linemen are sitting there and just teeing off and blocking their way. You heard him after the game. He just talked about what his offensive line did, and he was just a small part of their hard work.
And we're going to hear from him coming up, but as you can see here, the NFC playoff picture, the Saints, they win their 4th straight NFC South title, obviously putting a little bit more pressure here on the Packers, who play the Titans Sunday night. But this was an incredible game for them. They send the Vikings off to a long winter's nap. They are officially eliminated from the playoffs here. And Alvin Kamara, this was just an insanely historic game for him. And Week 16, you know, it's fantasy playoffs, fantasy championships for most people. So congratulations if you have him on your team, because it's a wrap. The week just started, but it's already over. Look at that, 56.2 PPR points. That is wild. Okay, so this was obviously the first 6-touchdown game that anyone has seen since 1929. I don't know if anybody really remembers that game. But Steve, in general, this was obviously a career day. It was his first ever game with over 20 carries. I mean, this was an incredible performance. What did you take away from it?
Well, he had 22 carries, 155 yards. And when you just look at things and you see how he ran the ball, 93 yards after contact. What's even more impressive, 4 yards per carry after contact. So he's already hitting you with 4 or 5 yards. You're hitting him 10, 15 yards down the field, and 1 or 2 guys hits him, and he's still going 4 yards, 4 additional yards. It just shows what Sean Payton saw in him, but also, too, what an outstanding player. And when you look at Alvin Kamara in this game, he was in the zone. He saw things he saw things that other people just didn't see. Dalvin Cook started off hot, but the New Orleans Saints cooled him off very quick. The Minnesota Vikings defense, they tried their best. But when you have a player at that level doing what he has done today, it's nothing really you can do to stop him. Just the way he was hitting the hole. He wasn't tiptoeing through the hole. He was running full speed and at times hitting linebackers. 10 or 15 yard head start and just bouncing off of them like ping pong balls. And it was an honor to watch him do that on Christmas. You know, a lot of people are watching sports, and he sure put on the show.
He was locked in. Probably wasn't great for Vikings fans to see the show that he put on, as we saw a couple of those shots with Dalvin Cook just watching from the sidelines at what Kamara was doing. But it was a little bit of a mixed bag for the Saints quarterback, Drew Brees, in terms of his performance today. From what you saw, do you think he is shaking off all of the rust? Are you concerned at all? I mean, he has Kamara, so that's great. But what are your thoughts about Drew Brees?
Well, he threw some passes that were maybe off, but your wide receiver, running back, tight end, you got to make those catches. If there's always a thing, if the ball hits the wide receiver's hands, it's not the quarterback's issue, it's the wide receiver's issue. Yes, they miss Michael Thomas because they still didn't have that wide receiver to step up and make defenses fear them. Yes, Taysom Hill made some plays. Cook made some plays, right? And Alvin Kamara was the whole show. But you still have to have a guy on the edge that people fear. And they haven't had one of those guys step up yet. They're trying to figure it out. They're hoping that one of those guys will show themselves until Michael Thomas comes back. But until that happens, they're still searching for that number 2 guy to step up. That is a wide receiver. They have a number of unbelievable playmakers, but they need a guy at the wide receiver position to step up and step up quickly.
Drew Brees, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but that's okay because they scored 7 rushing touchdowns today, 6 from Alvin Kamara. I mean, listen, Christmas was very good to the Saints, and today we didn't have our guy Joe Thomas with us, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't doing heavy lifting today because this was the masterpiece that he was working on while we were doing the shows here. Only took 3 hours, and I'd say it's a pretty good job there, right, Steve?
No, it's all right.
You're not impressed. I would like to see a to-scale photo with Joe, like 6'6", next to the dollhouse, just because I'm not sure how big the dollhouse is. I think that would help. Hey, we're going to hear from the star of the game coming up next, Alvin Kamara. What a zone he was locked into today.
You are watching the Mercedes